Thank you, Amie. I haven't seen you for a long time.
Yeah.
First, I'm Timothy from Chinatown Soup, and you are watching our monthly tea videos. I usually invite a good friend of mine, and today I have Amie, which I always admire.
No.
She is from Wistaria, Taiwan, now Paris. I don't know where it is going to go, but it's going to go big. So tell me a little bit about how we met first. Amie,
Oh my gosh.
where are you coming in from today?
How did we meet? Do I even remember the first time we met? Did I meet you here?
In New York, yes.
Yeah, but like at I think I met you in your basement area, right?
Yeah, my tea house.
But how did I get? I think I got connected with you through my mom, right?
Yeah.
That was the first time.
Right.
See, I like a little fuzzy. Like when you're asked, like, oh, like how we met, I'm like, oh, I don't even remember. Yeah, I think I met you in your other tea space. Let me think, how many years ago now? Yeah, I want to say at least 10 years ago.
Yeah, so it's been a long time coming that we finally can make a video
Yeah.
together and talk
This
about
is just like spur of the moment. Like it's almost 12 a.m.
We're drunk.
I'm a little bit stranded in New York because of circumstances. I was supposed to leave on the earlier train today, but it all leads to a nice opportunity to do a special recording for you.
Yeah.
So
And after New York, you're going
I'm going to Philly.
and then you're going to go to LA to do more tea talk.
I'm going to SF first. I'm going to San Francisco to my friend David from Tranquil Resonance is doing a hosting a tasting of Wistaria teas.
Nice.
Introducing it to a general audience. We're not doing anything like crazy. It's just like a simple tasting of some specialty teas from Taiwan. I think his goal is, as he told me, he wants to showcase some of the teas that he thinks are special, but maybe not as well known or popular. Like for example, the High Mountain oolongs, like most people know about it, so we're not like showcasing High Mountain oolongs. He wants to showcase, like for example, he's very adamant on like I want to do white tea. I was like, oh okay, because that's not usually.
You got everything.
That's not usually my first choice if I'm introducing like a Taiwanese tea to people, because I usually focus on the oolong. But he's like,
your private collections on white tea.
I know I have a private collection I'll share with him, but we don't need to talk about that because I don't have enough of that to go around. So
Okay.
why did you mention it? So now I'm gonna have to like people are gonna start asking me for it.
Well, Boy already investigated. If you know, Boy is our cat in here. He's a tea cat, and he starts sniffing around. And we are so lucky because this is something to introduce. So, this is Amie's puerh tea.
Well, I would say it's Wistaria's. I couldn't like say that it's mine.
Okay, same to me.
I'm not quite the level where I am synonymous with our brand. I feel like that would be.
I'm just so excited because, you know, I've been a fan of Wistaria since early 2000. And to have tea coming from the next generations and making known about what really good puerh tea is, this is amazing thing.
I'm just trying to copy you, dude. I'm like, you have a special technique too. Pressed without falling.
I'm just putting it over here.
It works.
In a way. One is a shang puerh, one is a cook puerh. But when you look into the cake like this, you know, it's a 200 grams tea, but the way that it was carefully curated, the way that it was made, this is 2024, but also...
2023 actually. Press in 2023. Oh! You know what?
My birthday.
Okay, the reason I said it's 2023 is because I'm thinking about the 原料, like the material.
But the press.
But the pressing, you're right. It's 2024. Yeah, I'm thinking about like when the tea was plucked.
And tell us about how this was kind of like, you know, became a real thing. Because all the materials that you use, even the paper, the stitchings, everything looks very, very much artisanal for me. And
yeah. So
it came with a bag if you buy a tea. Yes.
Yeah, so maybe we'll start with the tea first, like
Okay.
to give like a proper introduction, and then we can talk about the
I'm
flavor
gonna
next.
open one over here, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna open up the other one over there.
Oh, okay, sure.
I'm gonna open this up.
We're just improvising because
Double pack, of course.
we didn't prepare this. This is like a spur of the moment. Can you think that
And then
this is visible enough for
yeah, when you
everyone?
hold it up, this cake, I already break it. I'm lucky enough to taste it first, and you can see the thickness of this tea. You can see the carefully curations of everything in this tea.
I feel like we need to zoom in on a tea.
This is a cooked one, and this is a sham
Yeah.
one. You can see the big difference between the two. And I'm lucky enough to have 143 out of 400, and the sham one is number 95 out of 400. So
Yeah.
they only make 400
We
of
only made
these
400 of these cakes.
of each.
Yeah, of each cake.
And the story behind it is this Taiwanese tea, I would call him enthusiast, or more than enthusiast on tea, really study the history of puerh. And if you know about puerh, in the old times there's no single origins, nothing like what we do nowadays, a single trunk or whatever, because the most important part about making puerh tea is about the environment. So we call it the ecology of the tea. So this is really focused back onto that idea of the ecologies. And the ecologies involve different areas, different materials. This, I'm assuming, have 4 different mountains in it. And same as this, have four
Yeah.
different mountains in it. And in the old days, if you look into the how labels tea, there are multiple areas, especially later on in the mark area, like the home yin and the yellow mark or whatsoever. They are also a recipe cake. Recipe cake meaning that you collect different area and then you mix it together to emphasize the taste of what truly that region tastes like. And it's
basically it blends.
It's a blend, right? So it's very important to even understand areas, then you can mix it together in different proportions to create something that is in harmony to that region. So I'm really, very excited that the younger generations are going back into this technique, and this is a skill that I think a lot of people start losing when everybody is focused on making money, going into the poor old trees and just picking the old trees and forget about the rest of it. And the stress on putting that single trunks to make single trees, I think is a lot to the environment, to the tree itself, put a lot of stress in it. And I think this is the right direction, in my opinion, of making puerh tea, that you should amplify the whole area instead of just one trunk.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, from my understanding, like blends reflect more classic Chinese values of like harmony, and so that's what the blends are after. Is basically wanting to create a flavor profile that is a harmonious blend, or like a kind of a symphony of the different areas that they pick from. A lot of the blends, like I think Tim was talking about, like red mark, haoji, like the hao style teas, they're typically blends from 2 areas. These that we have in front of us are blends from 4 different areas that have in the last like 20 years been highlighted as very like sort of very classic and very interesting and very how would you say, like representative of like flavor profiles and also strength and sort of depth of really good puerh tea. And the classic one, of course, is the Yu, which is an area that a lot of the people who have been drinking puerh for a long time. Like a lot of my elders have a strong preference to Renew because it tends to have like a more elegant and sort of sophisticated flavor, and a lot of the earlier cakes also have that we see a lot from Renew have like aged to a degree to be a bit more mellow than some of the new things that are coming out from, like, for example, Chinatown area. So just for the, of course oversimplifying, but just for the sake of like describing this cake, the Iwu is, I think, what brings out sort of the elegance of this tea a lot. It amplifies that aspect. And then the second region that is highlighted in this tea is the Monghai region. And Monghai region, that's in Xizhuangbanna area, is a region that has been, I guess, becoming more popular in recent years because of a certain kind of a strength or vigor. And I say tachi, but like I don't think like the sort of the energetics of the tea, I guess. And it's like what gives it kind of a oomph, I guess I would say. I mean, it's like a
power.
Yeah, a power and a strength. It's like that's what I think Monghai is well known for. And when I taste teas from that area, I definitely feel that kind of like very strong life force in that part of Yunnan. It's a very old part of Yunnan. A lot of the tea trees are being taken care of there by the indigenous population, like Daizu, the tribes. And the third area that is in this tree, in this tea, is the Mengku region. So the Mengku region is also a very interesting area in that the soil there tends to be more mineral, and so the teas from that area often will have like kind of a mineral depth, like in a way that kind of reminds me of. I don't want to compare it too much to cliff tea because I feel like cliff teas have a mineral quality that is quite different in the way it expresses, but I can kind of like feel a slightly similar quality, except I think in puerh, the way that the mineral quality shows up for me when it's in a clean tea, it kind of reminds me of like a very still deep pond. Like you get that very clear water as if it has risen up from the ground. And that is something that I sometimes taste in a Mengku tea, and I can sort of taste that quality in this tea, especially after you brew it, local infusions, when that clarity comes through. I can feel that like stone quality. And the last region that is in this tea is the Wuliang Mountain area, and that actually area has in recent years become known for very highly fragrant teas that have like florals.
Yeah.
And that is also because Wuliang Mountain, the teas there is typically of a higher elevation, so you get some of that more depth in the flavor profile. Because we all, if you have studied tea in different elevations, you might have seen that like the teas that are at higher elevations, they tend to have to be thicker, and they have to have more nutrients to protect itself because the temperature difference between night and day is really big. So then that causes the leaf to need to be more strong to be able to withstand like all the different kinds of temperature. And so oftentimes the tea will become more fragrant as a result.
It's like high mountain.
Yeah, exactly. And Wuliang Mountain and actually Mengku, I feel like they have some flavor profiles that overlap. Some of the Mengku stuff also has that kind of like floralness to it.
It's very close to Nanchang area, right?
Nanchang?
Linchang.
Oh, Linchang.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah,
a high
Linchang. Yeah,
elevations.
Linchang is also an area that I like a lot. I haven't had the opportunity to visit yet. I've been to other parts of Yunnan. Yunnan's really big. I come from Taiwan. It's a tiny island. You can drive like 6 hours and go from one tip to the other. In China, that's like, yeah. That's
But you will
the
go.
middle.
you will go.
Yeah,
You have to go.
I go eventually. I've been to Mengku and I've been to actually I have not been to Yu yet.
No,
I haven't.
Okay.
The last time I went, I was focused on Shisuanbana, and we went to Damong.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's close.
Yeah, and it's in that direction. And we went to like the like the Laobanzang, Laoban'e, and all those places.
Yeah.
And you have to like see that. But basically, I said a lot of things, but just to show that like there are even like in the puerh world, there's like different flavor profiles or expressions of the tea depending on which region it's from. And the reason that this tea farmer wanted to blend them is that this is basically his modern reinterpretation of a classic cake. Like I was saying earlier, a classic puerh is typically a blend because it reflects Chinese cultural ideals of like harmony. They wanted to find like a harmonious blend of different things that work together. Single origin and like even single tree teas is kind of a newer trend, and part of it is sort of a marketing tactic because you always want something new to drive the market, and part of it's also like I believe from like a Western influence because there's like we talk about terroir a lot in wine and it's in chocolate,
coffee.
Single origin, like all this stuff definitely has an impact as tea and puerh has become more popular in the West in recent years.
We get tired of that.
I mean, like, it is interesting, I think, to taste single origin teas because then you get a really strong understanding of what that terroir does. But, like, if you want to age it and if you want to enjoy it, and at the end of, like, 20 years or 30 years, like, arguably, like, the more complex the tea is, the more different, the more that it will develop and the layers of development and the different speeds at how the bacteria interacts, like what's present in a tea, it will give you more joy.
I love this because this is boy again.
Hi. He agrees. It's like he jumps on the table. I was like joy, and then he agrees. He's
really,
smelling the tea now. He's like, yeah. Now I want some tea too.
I know, right, boy. Okay, yes. So I'm really happy that the new generations, I consider it the new generations, and the one that passes the torch to you, are really respecting the old traditions.
Oh, it's not me. I'm just like reflecting what the farmer's doing.
Well, but you agree with him. Of course, that's why you had this cake for your shop.
Yeah.
But that's important because respecting the traditions and fully understand where that tradition is how we move ourselves forward. A lot of times we forgot about the tradition, but we want to make something new without understanding traditions.
Yeah.
That's where the single origin tree, the single trunk, the single focus on single one direction is facing the south, whatsoever. That's a great talking point and that's also great endeavor. But in reality, when you just drink that, it doesn't really reflect the environment, the culture of that area. So I think we learned from that, we call it third wave coffee, we call it third wave tea. Now we're really going back to the fourth wave in a sense, which respect traditions, learn from the third wave, and renew this kind of Renaissance tea that I'm always impressed by. I always love the mark, the homie, as you said, it's a plant. And they age beautifully. Back in the days, those tea is not that pretty to look at because they just get the raw materials. They don't single pick one tree to make it look really pretty. When you open up a homie, there's everything in there because that's what it's supposed to taste like. The whole environment's in there, which makes different areas. Now, this generations actually are more even carefully select those bushes, put much more attention to it because this is more artisanal than those mass productions tea. Carefully press it by stone, these are all stone press. those tradition of pressings make a big difference in aging.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so happy that people are doing that because the tradition is coming back and people are relearning those traditions so we can move even further into refining those kind of things. So I'm so excited that Wistaria is pushing this out.
I do want to say that the same farmer that makes these, he does also make single origin.
Yes, but he has to learn from that to make this.
Yes.
Right? So there's a process.
And it's not like it's a 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 ratio of like,
No.
He actually experimented and then he picked a proportion that he felt like reflects a flavor profile, like a classic of what he wants in like to reflect in that classic puerh. So yeah, he definitely learned from his many years of experiencing of making tea specific from one region to then like collaborate and make this.
I think it will be interesting in 10 years he will review which recipe he's actually trying to copy.
Which he's trying to copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he.
I'll say that if you know, but I think it will be interesting for all the people that.
Like a very he's like, how do I say? He's very deep into like he studies a lot of the ancient texts about puerh and then like how puerh was made and like texts about the how ji cha, like the how say that in English. What's the word you use usually?
It's called whole.
You just say
whole
how
grade. Yeah.
How grade?
Yeah.
Okay. I usually don't say it in English, so it's like I don't have a clientele in English speaking that's asking me for how. It's usually all the Chinese guys. So I'm
always getting there.
I mean, it's late. I'm just saying whatever. But what was I saying?
To understand that how.
Yeah, he studies the ancient texts and he has some theories and things like as I was sharing with Tim earlier about like he has thoughts about like he challenges what is accepted as a norm by the tea community about how tea was made and the history of like shopuer, shampoo and all that based on his own reading of the texts because he goes back to the original texts. And he also is there's so many things to share about him. He's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He often jokes to his friends that his puerh tea is the only puerh tea on the market that is truly vegetarian because he actually spends time having his staff pick up bugs from leaves. No one does that. It's so painstaking. Like, do you imagine like going through every leaf and looking to just check if there's bugs underneath? But if you think about it, like if you're using wild, I mean a lot of these teas in Yunnan, they're old growth, they're like mostly wild, or like taken care of in a way that is much less intrusive, there's much less tending to the teas because they're very sturdy on their own. You don't need pesticides, you don't need any of that stuff.
You kill it if you put pesticides.
Yeah, like you don't need any of that for like the old trees. They're already very well established. Like they're better left to their own devices than if you want to interfere with them. So you can imagine that there's a lot of natural like bugs and things on them, and most tea makers don't bother to remove them because once you press it in your cake, like you can't really tell anyway.
Extra protein.
Yeah, why not? And it's natural. Like most people don't really mind, but he because of
He's
like
very Buddhist on that, huh?
I think what he is he's very 他是处女座的 how do you say this in English? 处女座, what is that?
Virgo.
He's a Virgo.
Yeah, he's
and
very detail oriented.
Yes, there's a stereotype that Virgos are extremely detail oriented and kind of fussy and want and are perfectionists. And I think because his whole thing is like he really like treasures like purity and like cleanliness. So if you like, I stepped foot into his factory, and it's standard that you have to wrap up all your hair and like wear gloves and like wear like special slippers over your shoes to even enter his factory. No, but that's like standard. Like it should be standard because you don't want to bring in extra bacteria or things that's not good for the tea. And obviously we're not allowed to touch the tea because we're not the ones processing it. And then for the shopuer cake, he clears out the room, disinfects it, and like heat treats the whole thing to make sure all the bacteria is gone. and then he introduces the tea with its own bacteria, and then the local water, and then the the bacteria that exists in the Yunnan air, like the microbiome. And the way he explained it to me is that a lot of show puerh now, because it is being mass produced, because there has been an increase in demand in China, especially because there has been a demand for puerh, plus there's not enough shen puerh to go around because the demand is so high and shen puerh have to wait to age it. So show puerh is actually making a comeback, and people are now using very, very good material to make show puerh, whereas like the common understanding in the past, at least what I grew up hearing, was like, oh, like which well, I mean, like Tim has challenged this too, right?
Restaurant tea.
But it's like my understanding when I grew up here was like, oh, like the people, like the tea that's left over gets made into show puerh, or like the tea that's not as good gets made into show puerh. But apparently that's not true. But anyway, my friend who makes this tea has said that in recent years, because there's a demand for high quality tea that can be drinkable earlier because of demand, people have started using really, really good material tea for for show puerh. Like Tim was even telling me about like someone using to make show puerh, and I was like, why would you do that? There's so much complexity there that you are changing and losing forever if you do that. But people are doing that. It's interesting to taste the different profile. I still think you lose a lot when you make it into show puerh.
It's two different things.
Yeah,
we can't compare.
It's different. It's different. But basically, I'm jumping around, but he has like a lot of factories that mass produce show puerh. They actually, I guess I could call it cheating. Like they actually create a scientific blend of the bacteria that they want to grow on the puerh to hasten the fermentation process, the post-fermentation process for show puerh, which is different from like raw natural fermentation. The show puerh is made into a show puerh through a process called which is called wet piling. You add water and heat, and you let the tea sit to sort of amplify the bacteria and all the things that help
making cheese.
Yeah, it is actually a very, very similar process. So a lot of factories now actually make their own blend, like their factory blend, and they inject it in the tea.
The yeast, the mother.
But this tea is completely doesn't have any of that. It's
natural.
made in a very traditional, natural way, where it's just because the environment is clean enough, and once you just introduce only the bacteria that is only present in the leaves, in the air, in the water, and it multiplies. It multiplies to a point where there is enough good bacteria that the bad bacteria cannot come in and harm because they're crowded out. And then it gets more and more fermented. And that's rare. I mean, this is why.
Well, that's rare enough for us to really want to try it, right?
Yeah, that's rare, and it's extremely clean. Like this is this is the cleanest.
So how are we people gonna try this besides coming to Chinatown Soup and have some samples here? Can they order this on the website?
Yeah, these are available. And going back to the packaging that Tim wanted me to talk about, every time that someone purchases one of these teas, either the Shen or the Show, there is a special, very beautiful artisanal Yunnan handmade paper packaging, which is made by a couple that is from the Daizu, which is the Dai tribe, which is one of the caretaker tribes of these. This is another long sort of history lesson, but the reason that we're able to have any puerh at all is really thanks to the minorities that are living in China, the Daizu, the Dai tribe, the Gulang tribe, the Hanizu, and then the Hani tribe, and then the Lahuzu, the Lahu tribe. Like these four are the prominent. Yes, because if they were not the caretakers of the land, the Han people, like our ancestors.
We'll take down all
We
the
are
big
guilty.
tree.
We would have, because I guess we were guilty descendants of these, this race of people would have raised all the puerh trees down by now for mass like housing, like
Or they
infrastructure and
grow
development.
eucalyptus for paper.
Yeah, like something like that.
Yeah. So I think it's important. I think what we're trying to explain here is so important to go back to where the materials are coming from,
Yeah.
fully understand, fully respect. I think respect is the most important part of drinking tea, and respect not only comes from me serving tea or you receiving the tea you drink, but also where is it actually growing, how is it being grown, how is it being picked, the whole process down the line. If we can learn more about that, the more we learn, the more respect.
Yeah.
And more like, wow, this person actually hammered down the bark of.
Yes, he did. So he made it by hand. Yeah. So like, actually, I went to visit them because we use it as a packaging. So the more that we know about them, the better. And they let me make paper too. So yes. I didn't go and strip the bark, but he gave me bark that he had already had sitting in water because it needs to sit in a while and get soft. And then he let me pound it and pound it and pound it like for a long time. And I switched off with some friends that went together because it's pretty hard work.
Yeah, it's pulp.
And then you have to I think you have to stretch it. I don't remember don't quote me on this because I'm not an expert paper maker. It was just like a one-time thing that I tried out. But we pounded it for a while, we stretched it, and then we did something to it. But eventually it becomes such mush, and then you spread it in water. And then you use a screen. Yeah, use a screen to take it up, and then you dry it in the sun, and then it becomes paper. So he makes the paper. It's a husband and wife team, and then his wife stitches the sides. So and I just think it's so symbolic, but also so not just symbolic, but so. It's so
indigenous to the land. I would say it's very close to what the nature of the plants is and the trees there.
That too, but
everything is intact in here.
I was thinking that too, but I was thinking more how we were talking about how if it were not for the original caretakers of the land, the tribes, we wouldn't have puerh. And then the fact that we package it in paper made by somebody that is a part of that caretaking tribe. It's your first entrance to enjoying this tea is to pay your respect to the people who have taken care of the tea. And that's it, and they're the one that, and then this is protecting the tea. So I don't know, I just think it's very symbolic, but it's also that time of the night where I'm
one
just.
Of those.
Well, it's yours. I gave it to you.
To start packing into other tea.
Both of this is yours. So I think it's very special to to mention that because it's the paper that protects the tea is made by the person from a tribe that had been.
So are you gonna carry this in Paris too?
Yeah, it's already actually being sold in Paris.
Yes. Yeah. So anybody who is really resonating with what we're trying to introduce about the origins and the history of it, you can definitely go to Paris to Wistaria, or you can just follow me on Instagram.
Not follow me, follow Wistaria. I'm not my name is not synonymous with the brand. You gotta stop doing that.
For the shop.
My parents are gonna come and try to cut off my head.
It's okay. I mean, it's important that we know that the next generation is caring enough to really make this into the next steps, and I think that's the most important part is to pass on that knowledge.
Okay.
Right. So
yeah.
Thank you.
You're so serious about it all.
Well, tea for me. I mean, it's that's the difference between I've been always geeking out on tea.
Yeah, you're a total geek.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Because the more I geek out, the more I kind of find out things that really inspire me. And for you to be here is inspiring for me already.
Oh. Yeah.
So I think it's important that we really go forward on understanding the culture, just not going and hearing or googling some story that you don't even experience. Go there, be there, physically touch it, physically enjoy it. I think that's the most important part of the sharing part. And I also think this video is also about sharing, you come from a very important tea family. But it's important that I think that is the exchange, and I think we should keep that exchange going. Tea is always a gesture of friendship. And every time you offer tea to people, that you're disarming everyone in a sense. And I think we are spreading that word out, and I think the world needs a lot of that at this point. So, bring the tea down to Philadelphia, bring the tea down to San Francisco, go abroad to France, go back to Taiwan, go to China. I think the more we start traveling with it, the more friends we make. I think that's how we become friends.
Yeah, I mean, definitely met you for tea.
Yeah. So follow us and make sure that you follow Amie's journey. And
my journey?
Yes.
My journey is not really online. I don't talk
She's
about
too
my
humble.
journey. No, it's not. It really isn't. There's no way to follow it unless you know me. I guess you could write me a letter or something.
Find out.
You can email me, you can call me, but yeah, just follow Wistaria's journey. That will be somewhat parallel to my journey because I'm taking more and more roles in the future of
you
Wistaria.
learn a lot. And I hope that in the near future we're gonna see more of this kind of productions coming out from Wistaria.
Yeah, we actually have more
yeah.
cakes. This is just the start. This is
Right.
the first 2 cakes in our new series that Wistaria has not released any cakes in the past 10 years. Yeah, we just had a long break from releasing cooler cakes. And part of it is because of wanting to find trustworthy sources, and also Wistaria's recent focus has been more towards sustainability and
storytelling.
yeah, but I'm thinking about we've become more aware of how the practice of making certain kinds of teas and how you make it can really impact the environment and sometimes cause environmental degradation.
Definitely.
And there's just a lot of intricacies. And also it's become harder, I think, for us who don't live in China to or visit China all the time, or make or produce, or we're not actually producers of puerh. We're more we're more like cultural ambassadors, because we have a brand and we have a tea salon and we do a lot of arts events, and for us tea is kind of a medium to transmit a lot of the philosophy of life, or
it's more than
heritage,
a teahouse. Yeah, it's more than
culture,
a teahouse.
crossing the cultural gaps and things. And so we're not really our focus is not just on the tea. So we kind of we haven't really tried that hard in the last 10 years to be we have to make a cake. I think we kind of follow the flow of we have this this opportunity because this person 10 years ago was the first time he came and visited my mother, and he had just started to make tea. This is more than 10 years, maybe 12, 14, I don't know the details. He came in wanting to exhibit his collection of carpets from Kazakhstan, because he had a huge collection of carpets and he knew that Wistaria is a big exhibition space. So he's wanted to exhibit his carpets in our exhibition hall. And then as an aside, he was by the way, I recently started to make tea, and I would be honored if you would try some of my tea. And my mom's okay. And then my mom tries his tea. And then my mom doesn't remember anything, but apparently what she told him struck him so hard that he loves, every time he talks about it, he feels, you can tell that, at that point he was still a young guy in his 30s, and he, got so much inspiration from what she said, because, my parents are very respected, experts in tea, so, what they say carry a lot of weight. So, apparently, he says that my mom said, as soon as she tasted his tea, the first sip, she told all her staff, come, drink this tea. This is what I've been talking about. This is living tea.
Oh my God.
And then my friend, this guy, he was so over the moon, and he was yeah, I'm gonna continue making tea. And then through the series, The Magic of the Universe, a few years ago, when I moved back to Taiwan, I had a roommate who invited me back to his hometown because there was some sort of a very important religious event in his hometown once every 12 years. That happens once every 12 years. And he was like, oh, would you like to come see this? And me, because like I had just moved back to Taiwan and I'm like, was very eager to get in touch with like anything related to my roots. Because, you know, I've been living abroad since like 5 years old. I was like, yeah, I'll come. And then I met, and then he took me to his place, like, oh, I have a friend who makes tea. And then we sat down and yes. Whoa. Yes. And then like comes the moment that I think is hilarious, and I'm always like, I'm really funny because like I never like to tell people outright that I'm from Wistaria because I like to see the gradual realization. And
dangerous.
No, I think it's funny because
it's funny for you.
And also I just like, I don't know. I think it's fun. I like to torment people apparently.
Oh.
But like usually it's like, oh, like my friend will be like, oh, this is my friend, like she has a tea house or whatever. And he's like, oh, it's in Naya. Like, where is it? I'm like, oh, it's in Taipei. And then he's like, oh, which part of Taipei? I'm like, oh, Da'an district. And then I was like, and then he's like, oh yeah, okay. Oh, and then where is that? I'm like, oh yeah, near the Da'an Park. Oh, you know Taida, like the university, pretty close to that. And then like, and then if they like already know it, so they start to wonder, but then you can feel that they haven't quite wouldn't ask me yet, because like if I'm not, then they're thinking something else, and I know and they know, then it's awkward, right? But then they start to think, and then eventually it's like, and I'm like, oh, we're Tsusalu, and they're like, oh. Like it's always the same process. Like I think it's hilarious. I have a little moment of joy.
Now it's like, out in the world, so people will be aware.
Oh no, we can't broadcast this. Can't like yeah. You should just like
put. You have your head already, so.
You should have like put.
No.
When you broadcast it, you're gonna put a mask.
No.
Like you're just gonna put a thing here, and then like there's no face.
Oh,
no face, because I'm like anonymous. I'm not recognizable.
Well, I think, you know, we all understand how well, I can always say that, you know, Wistaria is very important to me in my growing or learning about tea.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy that you're following in that footsteps. Cannot wait for you to do more. I cannot wait to see what you're going to do.
Oh.
Because everything you're going to do will be, you know, a lesson for us to all learn about how great things could be. So keep going.
Thank you.
All right.
And thank you so much for inviting me to join
anytime
this, and for having been, I don't know, like so supportive throughout the years. I feel like you've seen my journey with tea for the past 10 years.
Yeah,
from
we danced together in Chinatown Soup for events. And,
I performed in your room right there.
I know, that's funny.
Like
right.
2019 when I was exploring Buto dance. And, like, yeah.
So if anybody can go to San Francisco, will be great for you to see Amie's. If not, again, you know.
Well, depending on when you broadcast this, I don't know if I'll still be in San Francisco, because we're having an event on June 14th with my friend David. But if you are interested in these cakes, they are available online through the Paris website or the Taipei website. And
don't miss it.
Yeah, I mean, there are only 400 of each. Right. So if you want to try them, I do recommend them a lot. I think they're very interesting, very high quality, and also very good learning material, especially the fact that these are the same beer cakes, the same trees, the same material, everything exactly the same, and the only difference being raw and ripe processing. So this is actually the material of my latest class that I did in Paris, where I was trying to communicate to people what ripe processing is, and by showcasing two cakes that use the exact same material, but one is ripe and one is raw, you can taste, like the only difference there being like the processing, you can really taste how that affects tea. So if anything, if you're a geek and you want to learn as much as you want about tea, I'm sure there's a lot of geeks that study with him. Like this is like prime material. Like, even if you just like want to share with your friends the difference, because you talk about it and they don't understand you. Like this will just like let everyone know through their own sensory perception, their own taste buds, like, oh, like eureka, like right. This is what this tastes like, the massive difference in the tea. And you can tell, like you can see, like these two are the same leaves but processed differently, and after a few steepings One is still very raw looking, like you can see the whole leaves, and the other one is completely cooked. That's from the wet palate. And the dark stuff, that post fermentation.
Cool.
Yeah. And even the broth.
Oh, that's good. Right there.
Oh yeah, it's already shown. Like the broth comes out very, very different.
Well, enjoy everyone. I hope that
Yeah.
you join us next time, and hopefully, we'll get Amie back soon after that.
Yeah.
All right.
Anytime.
Thank
Have
you.
a good chat.